Jaqui Lane, and I led her for Sydney. Jaqui, welcome to the show. Good afternoon to you. Yeah, 501s, the ubiquitous 501s, do you think they're what would they be proportionate to expat Kiwis living in Australia? It'd be very small, wouldn't it?
I would have thought so. I don't really know, but yeah, mind you, I would have thought. Could be wrong, but...
Do they talk about Kiwi crime in Australia?
No, they don't. You tend to get more... people are very careful not to couch any crime in terms of a particular racial group, whether it be Kiwi or African or Middle Eastern or anything. Very, very careful around that here.
Right. But I've sort of, just from reading the Sydney Morning Herald and the Australian and looking at 9 News and stuff like that, I'm under the impression that there are a lot of Lebanese crime families. Have I got that wrong?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of, well, depending on which city you're in, which part of which city, you might have Lebanese, Middle Eastern, separate from Lebanese to down in Victoria, it's more kind of the typical kind of Latin mafia or the Union mafia or young Sudanese in parts of Melbourne. Queensland, the focus is really on younger people rather than a particular racial group. But I think also, Michael, we have a lot of boys behaving badly in our rugby league that a number seem to tend to come from New Zealand or via, our Pacific Island friends and our Maori friends.
Yeah, what is that about? Because National Rugby League in Australia has a particular reputation for badly behaving, particularly off-field antics.
Yes.
What is that about? Because I
have no idea.
It doesn't happen in Australia, New Zealand rugby, for example.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of young men getting a lot of money very young. There's $1 million, 3-year contracts, $3 million contracts, and they don't have good managers or they don't have managers, and they go to pubs and get swamped by girls and guys and they behave badly. And it literally is, when the league season starts, it's like, okay, we know what the headlines are going to be. Forget the scores in the game. They're going to be boys behaving badly in pubs and bashing each other up or abusing women, or, you can literally write the headlines every year.
Having said that, I've just read the latest report that of all English-speaking peoples, the life expectancy in Australia is better than anywhere else on the planet, including Canada, the United States, and the UK and New Zealand. What is it about Australia that lets people live longer?
I think we have a pretty nice climate. There's not too many extremes in climate, so it's easy to have a relatively good quality of life without too many extremes in terms of weather or whatever. And we have a reasonably good safety net system. People will argue about that at the edges, and there's bits of it that aren't great. Outdoorsy type people, because the weather's so nice, mostly. Spend a lot of time outdoors and probably don't eat huge amounts of...
So in terms of lifestyle choices... Yeah, but it's really interesting because, I don't know. Who drinks more, Australian or New Zealanders? You could make a comparison.
Oh, I would think probably Australians do, although it's
that's what I thought.
In terms, younger generations are actually drinking way, way less than perhaps you and I did it when we were in our 20s.
That is true. Yeah, no question. They actually drink to get drunk, though, the younger generation. They don't drink
but they don't drink a lot. I mean, my son and his cohort, none of them drink at all. So,
No, I've got a son like that too, but there you go. Long may it continue.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. To end up like your wizened old father and whatever. Listen, on that, our Australian New Zealand Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, is meeting, I think today, with your Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and they're going to have frank talks, according to Christopher Luxon, over the 501 deportees policy. Listen, I can't remember. The number of New Zealand Prime Ministers have gone over there, raised the issue and basically been told to naff off. That's like to be the reaction again, isn't it?
I don't think they'll change it. I mean, I'm just looking at the stats here, till September 2023, that basically 3,000 New Zealand citizens were sent back to you guys.
Wow. Wow. Is that how many?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yes, it is. Most were aged between 20 and 40, and a disproportionate number were Māori. Just under half had been convicted of a criminal offence since 2015. It's not just New Zealand. 501s are also deported to the UK, Vietnam, China, Sudan. But New Zealand makes up about half the numbers each. Yes, New Zealand makes up about half the numbers each year.
Right. Okay. So you don't want them, and you don't want them. Yeah, carry on.
No, and actually, so going back to those numbers, so it's estimated around 670,000 New Zealand citizens live in Australia on a visa, which is fine, but it's legally temporary, so they can be revoked. So there you go. Out of 670, about 3,000 get sent back each year on average.
Here's a question for you. And this is a very good question for you because you're sort of bound up in those 670,000 New Zealanders. You haven't.
Well, I'm not actually, because I'm an Australian. I'm also an Australian citizen. I have both passports.
Right. So you can have dual citizenship in Australia. If I have dual citizenship, am I still liable for deportation?
Not under a 501, because it relates to people who are on a inverted commas temporary visa, but you can be on a temporary visa here as a New Zealander for your whole life. Well,
you just arrived, don't you? Do I even need a visa to be in Australia?
No, you don't. But if you don't take out citizenship, you are legally temporary.
Right.
Even though you can get the perks of being, so you can get the dole, you get all the benefits, and this is a deal that Australia and New Zealand did a long time ago. So you can come here as a New Zealander, not become a citizen, but get Medicare, you can get everything a citizen does, but you are technically legally temporary.
Right. But I'm interested also in the concept that the Jacinda Ardern and Anthony Albanese, and I take it that this did change, though. 501 policy didn't. And that was that New Zealanders now have a much quicker route to citizenship, yeah?
Yes, they did. We had a bit of a chat about this a couple of weeks ago, I think, that the states in Australia are desperate for policemen, teachers, doctors, lawyers, whatever, and also people to join the army. So they've now, many states and even the Defence Force, if you come over here as a New Zealander and join the Defence Force, you can become a permanent resident in under a year. And it used to be that you had to be here longer. I don't know what the time frame was. So yes, there are a number of ways that should you choose to become a citizen, you can now do that as a New Zealander much quicker. And of course, many of the states are paying $20,000, $30,000 kind of encouragement fees to get New Zealand's best and brightest here.
Right, so I'm reading here on the Australian website, I think it is. It's the Australian website. Yes, the Australian government website. The process would normally take you 4 years. New Zealand citizens must meet the general residence requirement of having been lawfully present in New Zealand for 4 years, including 12 months as a permanent resident. But what you're saying is, with some of those professions you just mentioned, they are fast-tracking. Is that right?
I know that the ADF, the Australian Defence Force, has a fast track. I'm not too sure about the others. What I do know about the other professions is that state governments are paying, $20,000, $30,000 to encourage New Zealanders to come here because we've got such a shortage of doctors, teachers, everything. So I'm not sure about the citizenship PR thing for them.